There is a question most of us carry around like an invisible weight. We never say it out loud, but it is always there, somewhere beneath the surface of the day. Why do other people's opinions of me feel so real? And why is it so hard to stop caring about them? If you have ever lain awake at night, replaying a conversation that went wrong, or rehearsing one that hasn't even happened yet, this is for you. Tonight, we are going to sit with one of history's most honest minds, a man who was not always comfortable to read, but who left behind something extraordinarily useful, a philosophy of letting go. My name is not important. What matters is this. For the next 15 minutes or so, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to solve anything. You only have to listen. And if sleep finds you before we are finished, that is perfectly fine. Part 1. Who was this man? Arthur Schopenhauer was born in Danzig in 1788, into a wealthy merchant family. His father was ambitious. His mother was brilliant, cold, and eventually famous as a novelist. By most accounts, Arthur did not have an easy childhood. His relationship with his mother was distant and often painful. She found him difficult. He found her shallow. They eventually stopped speaking altogether. He spent much of his adult life in near isolation. He had few close friends, a complicated relationship with love, and a deep, unfashionable conviction that the world was not particularly interested in being kind to anyone. He was largely ignored by the academic world during his peak years. His lectures at the University of Berlin were famously scheduled. At the same time as those of Hegel, the era's most celebrated philosopher, almost no students came to hear Schopenhauer. He gave the lectures anyway. And yet, in his final years, the world finally caught up with him. His major work, The World as Will and Representation, which had been largely ignored for decades, began to be read, widely, eagerly, hungrily. He died in 1860, at the age of 72, quietly, in his armchair, surrounded by his books and his beloved dog. By then he understood something that had taken him a lifetime to fully accept. The opinions of others had very little to do with the truth of anything. Part 2. The Trap of Approval. Schopenhauer had a phrase for the strange human obsession with what other people think of us. He called it pride in the opinion of others, and he considered it one of the great sources of human suffering. Not because caring about people is wrong, but because we tend to care about the wrong thing within them. Think about it this way. You have a thought, a real honest thought about your own life. Maybe it is about a choice you made, a path you are taking, a thing you believe. Now imagine a stranger on the street, someone who does not know you, who has their own fears and wounds and blind spots, glances at you and forms a quick impression. Why should their impression carry more weight than your own honest thought? Schopenhauer asked this question many times in many different ways, and his answer was always roughly the same. It shouldn't, but it does, because we are wired that way. We are social creatures. For most of human history, being rejected by the group meant death, so our nervous systems evolved to monitor, constantly, how we are being perceived. What Schopenhauer understood is that this ancient survival mechanism now runs mostly on empty in modern life. The threat is rarely real, but the fear feels real. And so we exhaust ourselves managing impressions that ultimately don't protect us from anything. Part 3. The Pendulum. To understand Schopenhauer's solution, you first need to understand his picture of human desire. He described life as a pendulum. On one side, want, longing, the ache of not yet having. On the other side, boredom, the flatness that comes after the wanting is satisfied. Most of us, he believed, spend our lives swinging between these two states. We want something badly. We suffer in the wanting. We finally get it. We feel relief, briefly, and then a strange hollow feeling sets in, and we begin wanting again. This applies, he said, to approval just as much as to objects or achievements. You want to be liked by someone. You work hard to achieve it. They like you. For a moment, it feels like enough. And that you notice someone else who doesn't like you, and the wanting begins again. The pendulum never stops on its own, unless you stop feeding it. Part 4. The Art of Withdrawal. Schopenhauer's philosophy of inner peace is often misread as cold, detached, even cruel. He is sometimes portrayed as the philosopher who told everyone to give up, to stop hoping, to accept that nothing matters. That is not quite right. What he actually proposed was something subtler and in many ways more demanding than optimism. He called it aesthetic withdrawal, or sometimes simply quiet. The idea is this: there are moments, certain rare and precious moments, when the will, that relentless internal engine of desire and fear, goes quiet. Sometimes it happens in music. You hear a piece of music so perfectly formed that for a moment you forget to want anything. You are just there, listening, present. Sometimes it happens in nature. You stand at the edge of something vast, a forest, an ocean, a sky full of stars, and the smallness of your anxieties becomes briefly visible, and you breathe, sometimes, and this is the one most relevant to us right now. It happens in stillness, when you stop performing, stop calculating, stop anticipating what others might think, when you simply rest in your own existence, without the audience, without the imaginary critics in the gallery of your mind. Schopenhauer believed that these moments were not escapes from life. They were glimpses of what life could feel like if the will were not always running the show. They were, he said, the closest thing to peace that a human being can know. Part 5. Practical wisdom. So what does this mean, practically, for someone lying in the dark right now? Here is what I take from Schopenhauer's life and thought, not as commands, but as gentle reminders. First, the person whose opinion you fear is also afraid of someone else's opinion. We are all standing in a circle, watching each other, terrified of what the others are thinking. And almost none of us are thinking about anyone but ourselves. It is, when you see it clearly, almost funny. Second, your inner life is more real than your reputation. What you actually feel, what you actually believe, what you care about when no one is watching. This is you, not the impression you leave on someone who barely glanced your way. Schopenhauer wrote, "The greatest wisdom is to make the enjoyment of the present the supreme object of life, not tomorrow's approval, not yesterday's embarrassment. The present, this moment, this breath." Third, solitude is not a punishment. It is a resource. Schopenhauer spent enormous amounts of time alone, not as a failure of connection, but as a deliberate practice. He believed that a person who could be at peace with themselves in solitude had found something that no amount of social approval could provide. An inner companion, a settled self, a place to return to. Part 6. Closing. Outside your window tonight. The world is still doing what it always does. Moving, judging, wanting, forgetting. None of that needs your attention right now. You have done enough today, whatever enough means for you. You have thought enough, tried enough, cared enough. For these next hours, nothing is required of you. No performance, no impression to maintain, no approval to seek. Just the quiet weight of your body, settling, just your breath, finding its own rhythm. Just you, without the audience. Schopenhauer spent a lifetime learning that the will cannot be fought, only gently, wisely, temporarily quieted, and in the quiet, something else becomes audible. Not emptiness, not despair, something closer to rest. Sleep well. You are enough. Exactly as you are. Right now.